So welcome again, everybody. Welcome to this PIU internship program. We'll start after a few minutes, and till then, if you have any queries regarding any previous sessions or any other query, you can type in the Q&A section, and we'll address few queries. And at the end of the session, we'll take your queries if you have any. Please type in your question and if you have any in the Q&A section. Also, these sessions are telecasted on YouTube. If you are not able to join due to any reason on Zoom, you can watch the sessions on YouTube. You can go to the programmers.io YouTube channel, and all the sessions of this internship program will be available there. If you have any questions, type in those your questions. And I've shared the Skype group link and a Google Drive link on the chat. You can practice those assignments from the Google Drive link. And if you face any issues in those, there is a Skype group. You can ask your questions to us over there. We'll wait for 1 or 2 minutes and then we'll start with today's session. Meanwhile, you can type your questions. Okay, so I don't think there are many questions for now. So the difference between a subfile and a display file. So display file basically is the UI of the RPGLE, and the subfile is like a when we want to display a data in a tabular form, or we want to use database tables onto our UI. That time we can use the subfiles concept. And today's session is of the subfiles only. So you can watch the session carefully. And today's session will be taken by Ms. Khushi. So Khushi, you can take over.
Okay. Thank you, Akshay. Let me know once my screen is visible.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. Okay, so today we are going to discuss one really interesting concept, that is subfile. So today we are going to cover the following topics: introduction to subfile, key components of subfile, process involved in displaying a subfile, its types, and handling user input using readc opcode. So let's firstly discuss what is a subfile. So a subfile display records in a tabular format on a display device. A subfile can display the records which are read from the database file through the program and return to the device file. So a subfile basically display records we read from a database file, and with the help of program logic, the same data is presented in the subfile display, which again can be changed through the program logic. It enhances the overall user experience by providing interactive and user-friendly interface. So as you all can see, there is an example of a subfile. So the employee details visible here are basically coming from a physical file, and we are presenting it in a tabular format through the subfile. Now let's discuss the key components of subfile. So firstly, subfile comprises of two record formats, subfile record and subfile control record format. So SFL CTL represent the static segment, which means it will remain constant, and SFL represents dynamic segment, which means the SFL portion will keep on changing depending on the data. We have some other components as well required when we will design a subfile. These are SFL DSP, SFL DSP CTL, SFL clear, SFL end, SFL page, and SFL size. We will further learn about them while we will start designing the subfile. Now let's discuss the process involved to display a subfile. So the first step is that we have to create a source member of type DSP, in which we will have a record formats SFL and SFL CTL. Second step is creating a database file that will actually store the data to be displayed through subfile. The third step is creating a RPGLE program. So the logic to display the subfile inside our RPGLE program can be divided into three parts. So the first step includes clearing the subfile control record format. The second step is loading the subfile buffer with the relevant data. Third step is displaying the data from the subfile buffer to the display device. And fourth step is to handle user interaction. Okay, so now let's start discussing the types of subfile. So the first type is loadal subfile. So in loadal subfile, all the records are written to the subfile buffer at once, and then the data in the subfile is loaded from the buffer. So for example, if we have a physical file having 100 records, then in case of loadal subfile, firstly, all the 100 records are loaded to the subfile buffer, and the same is displayed. And in Laudal subfile, we don't have to worry about page up and page down functionality handling. It is done by the system itself. In case of Laudal subfile, we can load maximum of 9999 records. Okay, so now let me go to AS400 screen, and we can start with the process of displaying a Laudal subfile. I hope my AS400 screen is visible, Akshay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So as we discussed, the first step is to design a source member of type DSPF. So let us start with that. Let me create test DSPF of type DSPF. Okay, so from option for 17, we can define our record formats necessary for creating the subfile. So option 1 is to add a record. So here we will give name that we want for our SFL record format. So for example, test SFL. We will press enter, and in the type, we have to mention SFL. Then we will press enter, and it will ask for subfile control record name. So we can give, for example, test SFL CTL, and we can press enter. Then as we discussed, we have some important keywords we have to mention while designing subfile. So these are inside are subfile control record format. These are general keywords and subfile display layout. So as you can see, the first important keyword is SFL DSP. It is used for displaying our subfile records. The second important keyword is SFL DSP CTL. It will help us to display our control records. So we can do Y for this keyword. The third keyword would be SFL clear for clearing our subfile records. And the last keyword is SFL end. It will help us to indicate that whether we have reached the end of our subfile or there are some more data to be displayed. So doing Y over here. And now we will be giving some indicator value to these keywords so that we can handle them inside a program logic. So for example, we can give 50, 51, 52, and 53 and pressing enter now. So next comes another two mandatory keywords, SFL size and SFL page. So SFL size is a mandatory keyword that indicates the total number of records that we can load inside our subfile. So as there is 4 positions, so we can give a maximum of 9999 value to this keyword. And the next mandatory keyword is SFL page, which basically help us to know that how many records we want to display in a subfile page at a time. So for example, I am giving 5 value and pressing enter. So you can see that our two record formats, SFL and SFL CTL, has been created. So we can design image using option 12. So here we can mention any constants that we want. For example, any column heading like employee name. And in our SFL record format, we will mention the dynamic data. So for example, we can mention an output field of length 20, which will the data which will change according to the according to a program logic. So that's how we can include data inside our SFL and SFL CTL. So if we will compile it now, so you can see that our display file has been created. So for Lodal subfile, I have created an example for display file. Opening it with option 17. The first is a record and it's the header. This is the header which will be displayed above our subfile control record format. The second will be our subfile control record format. And in this, I have declared these column headings: employee ID, employee name, department, and state. The next will be SFL record format. And inside these, I have mentioned these fields: employee ID, field name, and department state, which will contain the employee data. And next, I have designed a footer that will handle exit when user will press F3. So here we can do option 8 to see the selected records. So here as well, I have selected the essential keywords that we discussed: SFL DSP, SFL DSP CTL, SFL clear, and SFL end. And I am giving SFL size as 9999 and SFL page as 5. And in the footer, we have defined an indicator keyword CA03 that will help us to handle exit when user will press F3 function key. Okay, so that all was about designing a loader subfile. The second step is that we have to create a database that will contain the data. So for that, I have created this physical file, employee details PF. So here you can see this physical file is containing employee data, which we are going to display in tabular format using our subfile. Okay, so now let me share the program logic, the third step through which we will be displaying our subfile. So the first program I have created for Lodol subfile. So in this, the first thing is our file definition. So first we have declared our physical file employee details PF in input mode because we are going to read data from this physical file. The second, I have declared a display file that contains Lodol subfile. The only change in a display file that contains a subfile is that in the declaration, we have to mention the keyword S file that will contain our subfile record format along with a variable name that we have defined inside a program that will handle the RRN of this subfile records. So here you can see RRN hash has been declared at line number 13. And after this, I have used the keyword INDDS to declare indicator data structure, which will be containing all the keywords that we have declared inside our display file. So now comes the main program logic. So as we discussed, the logic of displaying a subfile is divided into three parts. So for that, I am executing my clear subroutine first, then executing the load subroutine, and then the display subroutine. So let me take this program in debug mode. Adding the breakpoint at first line. Now I am calling this program. So firstly, clear subroutine will be executed. This subroutine will basically help us to clear the subfile. That is the first step in our process. So firstly, for that, we are turning on our subfile clear indicator that we mentioned while designing our subfile. Next, we are assigning our RRN value to 0. Then we are writing the subfile control record format. And then at the end, I am turning off my subfile clear indicator. So that's the process that how we can clear a subfile. The next step is executing load subroutine that will help us to load the data in the subfile. So basically in this step, we read our physical file and then we populate the data from our physical file fields to our display file fields. So for that, I'm firstly setting the pointer at the lowest record using setll star lowval and now reading the physical file. And now I am running a do while loop until we have reached the end of our physical file. So these are the physical file fields and these are my subfile fields. So I'm populating the same into my subfile field. So if we can see employee ID is now 101. Now I am incrementing my RRN value to 1. So now earlier while clearing we set it to 0, but now it's 1. And now I am adding a condition that since my SFL size value is 9999, so if we have reached more, our RRN value have reached more than 99, then we should come out of this logic of loading the subfile. That's why using leave SR for the same. And now I am writing my subfile record format. So now after this, first record has been loaded inside our subfile buffer. So now reading the physical file again, and the same process will run inside this loop. So now I am setting the pointer at line number 53 so that we can complete this load process. Doing F12 now. So here if we will check RRN value now, it's 9. It means we have loaded 9 records into our subfile buffer. So that was about loading the subfile. Now the third step is displaying our subfile. So for that, I have added a do while loop that until user will press exit, we are going to display our subfile. So right now, exit indicator value will be turned off. So we will enter inside this loop, and now I am turning on the subfile display indicator, subfile control display indicator, subfile end indicator. So we are turning all these three indicators on, and I have added this condition that if we RRN value is less than 0, it means we haven't loaded even a single record into our subfile buffer, then our subfile display indicator should be turned off. Now writing the header and our footer. And now using exfmt keyword, I am doing write and read of my subfile control record format. Doing F10 now. So as you can see, we have we are now displaying our subfile. If I will do page down, so the rest of the records are getting displayed. And since we have reached the end of a file, we are able to get this indicator bottom that was handled by using subfile end indicator. Okay, so now pressing F3. So since now exit indicator value will be turned on, so we will come out of this loop and our program will be completed. So that was all about load all subfile. Now let me go to the presentation again. The next type of subfile is single page subfile. So if we want to load more than 999 records into the subfile buffer, we make use of single page subfile. So in single page subfile, every time the record is written in the buffer is cleared before writing. After clearing the subfile buffer, records equal to the size of SFL page are written. So if a physical file is having 100 records, then in case of single page subfile, records that we want to display in a single page are loaded first and are displayed. Then the subfile is cleared again before writing the next records to the subfile buffer. And in this case, we have to handle page up and page down functionality using our program logic. So going to my AS400 screen again, and let's start the process of displaying single page subfile. So the second display file is for the same, doing option 17 here, and the changes that we have to do inside the inside us display file is going to be that inside our subfile control record format keywords, doing option 8, we have to mention the SFL size value and SFL page value as equal. So in case of single page subfile, the value of these two keywords has to be equal. So I am giving 5 here. And the next change that I have done is inside file level keyword. So doing shift F2 for that, and inside indicator keyword, I have mentioned these two keywords, page down and page up, to handle our page down and page up functionality, and giving response indicator value to them 91 and 92. So these two changes we have to do. Otherwise, all other things while designing the subfile will be the same as was in case of load all subfile. Now let me go to the program logic. So the second program is for the single page subfile. In this, firstly, we have file definition. So declared the same physical file, employee details PF. And now I have declared the display file that have a single page subfile. And inside our indicator data structure, I have mentioned our keywords page down and page up as well, having indicator value 91 and 92. So now comes the main program logic. So inside our program logic also, for a single page subfile, we have the 3 steps: clearing the subfile, loading it, and displaying the same. So that's why I'm executing the clear subroutine first, and I am setting the pointer at the lowest record of the physical file before we execute the process of loading the subfile. And inside our display subroutine, we are going to handle the page up and page down functionality. So let me take this program as well in debug. Okay, now calling this program. So first clear subroutine will be executed, and its logic is exactly the same that was in case of load all subfile. Now I am setting the pointer at the lowest record of the physical file. Now I am executing the load subroutine. So after we have set the pointer at the lowest record, we are reading the physical file and executing the do while loop here as well until we have reached the end of our physical file. So here we can see our employee ID will be 101. That is the first record of our physical file. So now populating the values in the subfile, incrementing RRN value. Here, this logic has been added to handle our page up functionality. So if our RRN value is 1, then we are going to populate employee ID, which is a field in our physical file, to a variable defined inside our program, which is first record. So every time the subfile will be loaded, the first record in the subfile, which will have RRN value 1, will be populated inside this variable. Now writing the subfile record format. So the first record has been loaded. So here, if our RRN value will reach the value of our SFL page, which is 5, then we will leave from this loop. But here RN value is just 1. So reading the file again, our physical file. So now the same process will run for RRN value 2. So putting the breakpoint at line number 58, so we can complete the load process. I have did F12 now. Now checking the value of RRN, it is 5, which is equal to our SFL page value. So 5 records have been loaded into the subfile. Now checking if we have reached the end of our physical file, then we will turn on our subfile end indicator, else we will turn it off. Okay, now we have to execute display subroutine. So here as well, it will be run until our exit indicator will be turned off. Turning off the display and SFL display and SFL CTL display indicator. And if our RN is less than 0, then we should turn SFL display indicator off. And now we will display our subfile. Okay, so now you can see that first 5 records are getting displayed. So now I am doing page down. Let's see how we will be handling page down functionality. So for that, I am going to execute this subroutine process keys. So in the process key subroutine, we are firstly checking if our page down indicator is turned on, doing F11, and yes, it is turned on right now, and checking if we haven't reached the end of our file. So SFL end indicator should be off. If it is off, then I am executing the clear subroutine. As we just discussed that in case of single page subfile, we have to again clear our subfile and load it again if we are doing page up and page down. So that's why we are executing clear subroutine now. And now executing the load subroutine. So in that, reading the physical file. And inside our loop, if we will check now our employee ID, it is 106. So earlier we displayed till 105 employee ID, and now we are loading from 106. And we are incrementing RN value, and RN value will be 1 now. So we are going to populate in first record variable. So earlier we populated 101 in this variable. Now it's 106. Now writing the subfile record format. And in this way, we are going to run this loop again for loading the record. So now I am doing F5, F12. So to complete the load process, if we will check RRN value, it's 4. So 4 records have been loaded, and we have reached end of our file. So now we are turning on our SFLN indicator. So in this way, we will again run inside our loop, and our subfile will be displayed using EXFMT key1. So now you can see we did page down, and now records from 106 are getting displayed. Now I am doing page up to see how we are going to handle that. So if page up is turned on, we are going to get inside this logic. So we are setting the pointer at the variable values first record, which is 106. And after that, we will run a for loop starting from 1 to SFL page value, which is 5 plus 1. So we are going to use readp opcode to read the previous records just before 106 employee ID. So we have read it in the for the previous record for the first time. So if we will check employee ID now, it's 105. So again, using read p opcode. Okay, so now we have reached, we have entered inside this if condition. If we have reached the end of our file, let's check employee ID now. So we have reached 101 employee ID, which is our first record. It means now we cannot do read p anymore. That's why we have reached the end of our file. So in that case, we are going to set the pointer at the lowest record of our physical file, and we are going to leave from this for loop. Now clearing, now again executing clear subroutine, and again loading our subfile. So now we just did settle install lowell. So it will start loading from the employee ID 101. Okay, so I'm doing F12, and we must have loaded 5 records. So if end of file is, we haven't reached end of file, so our end indicator will be turned off. So now again our subfile will be displayed. So here you can see now we are able to see employee details from employee ID 101. Now pressing F3. So F3 indicator will be turned off, will be turned on, and we will come out of our loop and program will be completed. So that was all about single page subfile. The end result was same in both the cases, but the logic of handling page up and page down is different in both the cases. Let me go to the presentation again. Now we are going to discuss the third type of subfile, which is expandable subfile. So in case of expandable subfile, each time the subfile buffer is loaded with SFL page size. So the size of the subfile buffer will keep on increasing. But unlike single page subfile, the buffer is not cleared before writing the new data. So in this case, if first time we will load 10 records from the physical file to subfile buffer, then the second time again 10 records will be loaded and the size of our buffer will be 20. So in this case, we don't have to handle page up functionality. That is handled by the system itself. However, we have to do the handling for page down. And in this case as well, we can load maximum of 9999 records. Okay, now going to the AS400 screen. And let's start the process of displaying expandable subfile. So I have designed this third display file for the same. Okay, so the changes here we have to do is, first is same in case of subfile control record format. Inside display layout, SFL size should be at least one greater than SFL page value. This scenario is same for expandable and loadable subfile. So it should be at least greater than 5. So here I have given 9999. Okay, and the second change I have done is inside file level keywords. So shift F2 indicator keywords. Inside this, I have removed page up keyword. We only need page down keyword, and giving a response indicator value to 91. And that's the two changes. And for we also have to do a change for that. For that change, you can easily open your display file will option 2, and you will enter inside SEU in edit mode, and you can go inside subfile control record format, and inside this we have to declare this hidden field of length 4 and type zone, and this will have our keyword SFL record number. So basically in expandable subfile, we don't have to handle page up functionality. However, we have to handle the enter key functionality. So this will basically help us to display the records in the subfile starting from the subfile record number that is stored inside this hidden field. So that these are the three changes we have to do. Rest all will be the same as we designed our load all subfile. So going to the program logic now. So for expandable subfile, we have, apart from indicator data structure, we also have to declare information data structure. I have given it a name infds, and at line number 14 we have its declaration. So information data structure basically will help us to get information from our display file. So for that, I have declared a subfield and given it a name REC number, record number, and you have to mention the positions as 378 to 379. So this information, through information data structure, we will be able to get the record number where of the record which have RRN value as 1. So that will be populated inside this information data structure subfield. So for the program logic for expandable subfile, firstly, it's exactly the same as was in case of a single page subfile. So clearing the subfile and then setting the pointer at the lowest record, loading the subfile, and handling and displaying the subfile. And inside display subroutine only, we are going to handle our page down functionality. So the clear and load subroutine is going to be exactly the same as was in case of single page subfile. And inside the display subroutine, once our subfile has been displayed inside after we did exfmt on our subfile control record format, we only have to handle page down functionality. So I have added this condition that if our indicator page down is turned on and we haven't reached the end of our file, so our SFL and indicator is turned off, then we are going to execute process keys indicator, process keys subroutine. So let's see. Inside process keys subroutine, I only have the logic for page down. So in this, since we discussed that in expandable subfile, we don't have to clear our subfile again and again. That was the scenario in case of single page subfile. That's why I'm just loading it again. And after that, I have added this condition basically to handle the enter key functionality. So let me first show you what will happen if we will not handle our enter key functionality. So commenting this logic. Okay, now calling the program. So I am doing page down now. So we are able to get the other records as well. Now I am pressing enter key. So as you all saw, I pressed enter key, but our subfile automatically got loaded from the top of our physical file, which is the employee starting from the employee ID 101. But this should not happen. That's why inside the program logic, I have handled enter key functionality. So what will happen that if we haven't turned on page down, so in other case, what will happen? The record number that has been fetched from our display file using information data structure subfield is going to be populated inside this hidden field that we defined inside our subfile. So from there only we will be able to display our records starting from that record number that is going to be populated inside this hidden field defined inside our display file. Okay, now let me compile this again, calling the program, and I did page down so other records get loaded. Now I am pressing enter. So I pressed enter, but our subfile didn't get loaded starting from the first record of our physical file. We are still at this second page of our subfile. So that is how we can handle and enter key. Doing F3 now. So that was all about expandable subfile. Now let's discuss the fourth type of subfile, which is Windows subfile. So a Windows subfile mainly displays the subfile in the defined window dimensions on the workstation display. So basically, in Windows subfile as well, we have two record formats: Windows subfile record, which is the dynamic segment of our subfile, as is SFL in case of our normal subfile. And second record format is window record, which is our static segment, as is our subfile control record format. And now we can also discuss the handling of user input using readc opcode. So readc opcode is used to read subfile records that have been changed by the user. So its syntax is like we can use readc opcode along with our subfile record format. So as you all can see, here is an example. Here user have entered option 2 inside the option field, which is defined in both mode. So the user have entered input option 2. So here we want he want to edit this record. So if we want to read the detail of the employee 101, which have been changed by the user, then we use this readc opcode. So let me show you how we can handle this user inputs, as well as how we can display our Windows subfile. So for this purpose, I have this fourth display file. So in this, I have this load all subfile. So from option 12, you all can see we are having all the employee details, and option 2 defined in both mode that will handle user inputs. And for example, if user did option 2, so we are going to display this edit screen. It's a normal display file with which will have employee details. And at the last, we have defined our Windows subfile. So here you can all can see it's a Windows subfile. The upper portion is the subfile Windows subfile control format, the static one, and the dynamic segment is this option and department field. So it also have some keywords that we have to mention. So from option 8, we can see that. So here you all can see that it has generals, SFL record format, and display layout as well. So in subfile, similarly, as was in case of subfile, we will be defining all the four important keywords in a similar manner here as well: the SFL DSP, SFL DSP CTL, SFL clear, and SFL end. And also I have defined SFL size and SFL page here as well, so giving it 9999 as well. Uh, okay, so since we are going to use it as a prompt functionality, like let me show again. In the edit screen, we are going to have prompt functionality, and it will open the Windows subfile. So similarly, I have for the window using for the prompt functionality, I have defined the return cursor location keyword so that we can get the cursor location details, and from that we can display our Windows subfile. Okay, so let me show the program logic. Okay, so this fourth program is for that can from where we can handle user inputs. Here as well, we have the 3 steps: clearing it, loading the subfile, and displaying the same. So the process is same. Once the subfile has been displayed, then according to our program logic, we can handle. Like if user pressed exit, then we can end our program. If user pressed refresh, then we can clear and load our subfile again. Otherwise, we can execute the logic for handling subfile options. So what will going to happen if a user pressed any of the option? So we can handle this like in this manner, that if our RRN value is greater than 0, it means that we have loaded at least one record into our subfile buffer. Then we can use this readc opcode along with the subfile record format to read the data of the change record. So inside this do while end of file loop, I am executing this logic that if user have pressed option 2, then we are going to populate display file field value inside our physical file field value. So how we are going to get employee ID value inside this field is using readc opcode. So since the change record is going to be option 2, if we did for employee ID 1, then the same is going to be populated inside this subfile field. So once we have this value stored inside a subfile field, then we can handle our logic for displaying our edit screen. So doing chain on employee ID for the physical file and populating our employee ID 101, for example, in details inside our display file fields, which is the edit screen. So then we can display our edit screen, and apart from we can handle all the validations. And for the window, for displaying the windows of file, for example, here we are executing edit subroutine. So we can handle user inputs, like if user have pressed enter without and with keeping the employee name as blank, then we can display the error message that employee name cannot be blank. The same can go for employee department field. So now comes the logic that what if user pressed F4 on that edit screen, being on the field employee department, then we have to display our window. So for that, I have added this logic that if our field is department, which came from our return cursor location keyword mentioned in the display file and the 3 hidden fields, then if our prompt F4 function key is turned on, then in the similar way we display our sub file, the same we can use the logic and display our Windows sub file. So similarly, we can clear our Windows sub file first, load that, and display the same. So that's how, just a similar way we display our subfile, we can do the same for our Windows subfile. So let me call this program. Okay, so here you all can see we are able to get the subfile. So if, for example, we have pressed option 2 for this first record, then pressing enter. So since we used read C, so we were able to get the details for the record with employee ID 101 from the sub file, and the same from our program logic, we are displaying the data inside our edit screen. So for example, now I'm doing option F4 for prompt with the employee department field. So I have pressed F4. So now we are able to populate our Windows subfile. So I can press, for example, option 1. So you can see that from our program logic, the same have been populated inside our employee department field. Pressing enter, record has been updated successfully. Now I am doing F12. So you can see the department value has been updated in our physical file and has been shown the same inside our subfile. Yes, so that is all about the concept of subfiles. So if you have any question, then you can ask.
Yeah, thanks Kushi for this wonderful session. So as Kushi
Thank you,
said, if
Akshay.
you have any questions, you can raise your hands and then you can ask your questions. And note this is the last session of this internship program with respect to the training. So if you have any questions regarding any previous session as well, please raise your hands and ask your questions. Because after this, you will be allocating the case study which you need to complete.
Hello, hello,
Yes,
hello,
Samritpal.
hello. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, very good
Hello,
evening.
sir. I am attending this session for first time, sir. Where I can get sir assignments of previous session.
The assignment link we have shared in the chat. You can use that Google Drive link to see the assignments. And for the sessions, we have uploaded all the sessions on the YouTube. So you can go to programmers.io YouTube channel and there you'll see all the sessions which have been taken till now.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Hello, sir. Hi. Hello.
Yes, you can ask your question.
Yes, sir. When will you complete our case study, sir?
Sorry, pardon.
When will you complete our case study, sir?
That depends on you how much time you will take to complete that case study. We'll have one more session and we'll give you the detailed overview of the case study you need to prepare. And it's better for you if you prepare it as soon as possible.
In the upcoming
Okay, sir.
session, we
Thank
will explain the whole procedure for allocation and also completion of the case study and the submission date and the process of submission.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening.
So in the last session as well, I talked about it, and like I required a offer letter from your side. So I
So in the last
because my
session, in the last session as well, we informed you that you can mail to the HR from which you received the invitation link.
yeah, I mailed her, like she was Nidhi Joshi, I guess. So I mailed her, but I didn't got any reply. Like on the same day itself, I mailed her.
Okay, so wait, she'll may be busy, she'll reply.
Okay, sir. Also, we will raise your concern again. Thank you so much, sir. No issue.
Yes, this is the last session in terms of the training and the technical sessions. So you can rewatch those sessions on YouTube. And after this session, you'll be given a case study by next week, which you need to complete in order to proceed with the further round of interview for the PIU.
you have any kind of query, you can just raise your hand and we will allow you to unmute yourself and then you can ask the question. It can be either of this session or previous session.
Hello, sir.
Hello, good evening.
Sir, why we use a Windows Subfile? It is only for to show the prompt or for any other purpose?
Actually, mainly it is used for populate predefined data in the prompt fields. So for that we use suppose any fields of suppose we are creating a form and we have to input the gender. So either we can use Windows subfile in that we can define the genders from which user can select, or we can make it as input field. But in that case, we have to use the validations to get the valid data. And in case of prompt, it is already defined the predefined data, so it doesn't have that much chances of invalid input. So that's why we prefer Windows Subfile in that case.
Okay, means Windows Subfile is used only for to show the options to the user.
Yeah, mainly it is used for that, but there are various cases for other use also. But you can learn about that on your own research.
Oh, okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so since this is the last technical session, you also need to complete all those assignments which we have shared with the Google Drive link as soon as possible. That will be beneficial for your own practice so that you don't face any issue while working on your case study.
Also try to keep practicing all the sessions that we have shared, and then you can ask the question in the Skype group if you face any kind of issue, but not the question from the assignment, because that you have to done on yourself. You have to complete on your own.
If you have any questions, you can ask now, otherwise we'll wind up this session. Okay, so seems like there are no more questions, so we can wind up this session. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll have one more session where we'll be giving you the brief of the case study you need to prepare. Till then, you can practice all those things which we have shared and taught till now. Yes, Ankush, do you want to ask anything?
Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah,
Sir,
you are
where
audible.
I will get that Google Drive link?
We have shared in the chat. You can look into the chat of this Zoom session.
Sir, in chat, I did not find that. That's why
No problem. I'll share it again.
Sure.
I have shared the
Thank you.
Skype group and the chat link again. The
Okay,
drive
thank
link.
you so much, sir.
Yep. Welcome. Okay, so no more questions, so we can end this session. Thank you. Thank you for joining.